Alright, Darksiders 3, developed by Gunfire Games, released in 2018. I had no idea what the Darksiders series was about, but I had been wanting to play this game ever since it was a free release for PlayStation Plus members. Having now played it, I was not disappointed. I really enjoyed the story and game mechanics and felt it had a solid trophy list. Kudos to Gunfire Games for making a sleeper hit, in my opinion. Darksiders 3 is a single-player only game, and no internet connection is required to play. Moving on, is this game right for you or your family to play? The ESRB rating for Darksiders 3 is mature, 17 and older, because of blood, gore, and violence. In my opinion, the game is suitable for teen, 13 and older. Considering that, although the game is inherently violent since it is a hack and slash game, there is actually no blood and gore. Regardless, without giving away the story, Gunfire Games made it very clear what the moral arc of the story is, and in my opinion, they eliminated the addition of blood and gore in an effort to broaden to a larger audience for it to be suitable to play. And lastly, the messaging that the game makes is as important for teens as it is for adults. So I strongly feel it is suitable for teen and older and not 17 and older. Next up, just how long is this game going to take to complete? That is a really good question. To beat this game on any difficulty, it's likely going to be a very long grind, especially if you are unfamiliar with game mechanics, the series, or both. Even on New Game Plus, it took me 3 hours, speedrunning as much as possible, going through cutscenes as quickly as possible. Yes, it will vary for a lot of people, but generally it's going to be a 3 to 9 hour game just to beat. And again, a lot of it depends on how you approach the game. To earn 100%, it's going to realistically take at least 24 hours to do. Much more depending on how skilled you are, and again, how you decide to approach the game. There are glitches that can drastically affect the completion time, but for the most part, they have been patched up. Also, game difficulty does affect the completion time. Alright, time to get to the fun stuff. On a scale easy to expert, I'd say Darksiders 3 trophy list is above average. In my opinion, completing this game really helps improve mental reflex and problem solving. You could even argue it helps improve confidence, memory function, and emotional intelligence. And moving on, let's look at the highlights. To me, the two trophies that really boost mental reflex and problem solving are Death Incarnate, which is defeating the game on essentially the second hardest difficulty, and Quite Proper, which is defeating the boss known as Wicked K, who is the last boss you would fight in one of the additional contents. Without a doubt, having to play this game on the second to hardest difficulty is no easy task. Even if you are playing on any various New Game Plus format where you carry over all your stats and buffs from prior playthroughs, it's going to be difficult. The trick is really exploiting the use of items, which really takes away from the challenge, but nonetheless requires some skill to achieve. And there are multiple puzzles to solve, albeit not overly difficult. I was stumped on a few, I'll give them that. And defeating enemies and bosses alone requires some degree of problem solving, as you cannot block in this game, you can only dodge. In a completely different way to the same outcome, which is being able to beat Wicked K, it seems easy enough until you realize that in order to even have the chance to fight him, you must go through 100 rounds of fighting different enemies and bosses beforehand without stopping. Obviously, difficulty setting greatly affects the time completion on that trophy, but regardless, the better your muscle memory, the better your problem solving skills, the better you'll be off. All in all, the trophies themselves are easier to obtain when considering what helps, which again I mentioned for both of them. The question is whether you will do it. And that leads me to what I more want to steer the review towards, as it's really more of a teachable moment and I want to focus on. I find Darksiders 3 very unique in the sense that you get to choose your pace and really determine the difficulty of attaining 100%. Yes, it's inherently hard, so to speak, but you really make it harder on yourself. You really kind of determine how hard you want to make it for yourself. For me, I didn't realize until afterwards that the most efficient way for me to do things would have been to play the game on the easiest difficulty and completing the additional content right before the end of the main game. Instead, I played on the default difficulty and beat the game without considering the additional content, even though I was warned of a point of no return. I had thought I would be able to just go back and do it after completing the game. I learned that wasn't the case. So when I was faced with either earning everything else on the second to hardest difficulty and getting it all in one run, or splitting it up and playing on the easiest difficulty for cleanup and doing the additional content trophies, and then doing a final run on the second hardest difficulty, I chose doing the latter as it would seem most efficient. Even though in my mind at the time, it seemed like I was gonna waste even more time. And funny enough, I again realized halfway through my final run that utilizing items greatly impacts the game in your favor. And by items, I mean the other shards. There's different, I guess I would say, boosts that you could use. I mean, they're not called out. They're essentially items. I just want to use it for the terms of the review. And what I am trying to get at is time management and how it affects what you're trying to achieve. We all have our way of doing things. Sometimes it's the most effective as well. Sometimes it's not. The question is, what do you do when you learn that there is a more effective way to do what you're trying to achieve? Do you stay true to your ways in spite, or do you adapt? If it's something where time is not a factor, then you may think, yeah, sure, but that's always hard to kind of see and determine when we don't even know what would have happened with the extra time if it was available to you. On the flip side, how do you respond when you would have adapted but didn't realize it until after the fact? Well, really, all you can do is learn, move on, and appreciate the experience for what it was. That's a lot easier said than done, in a lot of situations, because sometimes we kind of cling to, well, had I just done it this way, I would have had the result that I wanted, or quicker, or better. So, it's a balance. I feel it's easy to fall into these dilemmas when playing to complete these kind of games like Darksiders 3. And if you aren't self-aware, you can find yourself stuck. Not because of the difficulty of the task or what you're facing, but rather in the way you go about doing the task or how you approach the situation that you find yourself in. And for me, that's the teachable moment Darksiders 3 also gives that I really like. And again, I kind of just experienced. When I started this game, I was dying so often and struggling a lot, but I found a groove and a pace and succeeded in it. And along the way, I realized I could have made it even easier on myself, so I adapted to that. And at that time, I thought, again, I was taking a longer route. And although in reality, the overall time took longer, the important thing is the time to complete the latter half of the trophy list took a lot less time than if I had stuck to my original plan and how I wanted to approach the game. And that's something that's not always easy to catch. But thankfully, playing games to complete them for mental fitness does help in that respect, and that I find to be, again, really invaluable to have available for people. And again, the consequences of messing up when you're playing a game is far less severe than if it were to be done in your real waking life. And so to be able to kind of catch that and really have that translate into the real world from something as simple as a video game, I feel it's great. And again, you don't really open yourself to that kind of experience if you're just playing a game just to enjoy it, just for fun. It really comes from when you're looking at the trophy list and you're working to play to complete it. You find yourself more in those situations. And so again, I just find that very valuable, and that's why I like having the opportunity to share that with everybody. And finally, let's talk about improvements. As far as trophies that would have or could have reflected the game and have mental fitness benefits that I think should have been put in, it's hard to say, to be honest. I feel the combination of the game mechanics and various options on how to approach completing the game is enough in itself, and that it is generally well balanced altogether. Some ideas come to my mind, but the game and its trophy list were solid, to say the least, so I feel it does not need to be disturbed. So again, kudos to Gunfire Games. And that's a wrap. Again, I had no idea what the Darksiders series was about, but I have been wanting to play Darksiders 3 ever since it was a free release, and having now played it, I was not disappointed. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend playing it if you're looking to build mental reflex and problem solving. For me, it really helped me really helped me build problem solving. And if you have questions about this game or mental fitness, or just want to share your experience with Darksiders 3, feel free to leave a comment or message me. I will do my best to answer any questions in reasonable time. And alright everyone, that's another review in the bag. If you want to watch me play live, follow me on Twitch. If you would like to hear more about mental fitness, game previews, and initial impressions, then go on over and follow my Instagram. I also take polls on Twitter for games I should play next that are in my library if you'd like to participate in that. And finally, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye!